Hello, and welcome back to another RiftGuides WildRift video, and for today we're going to look at something absolutely exotic, and it's Akali jungle. You probably have never seen this before, but after watching this video you'll understand that this champion could potentially be played in the jungle, especially if you want trick, or just generally want to understand how to play funny off-meta picks when you're bored of the typical meta champions. So without any further ado, let's hop right into it and take a good look at the build in the bottom left, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Starting with their third ability, making sure to deal the most damage possible to the jungle camp, because your third ability deals damage in two instances, which are both then amplified by your smite. Your first ability does barely any damage and you suffer a lot from energy issues, unless you get blue, and this is the reason why he starts blue, because blue buff will grant you accelerated energy regen. With this, especially on Z as well, you have an easier time clearing jungle camps, because otherwise it's quite the hassle. Luckily for you, however, it's quite easy to deal with the AoE camps because your champion is a melee champion and therefore the ult attacks will splash. Something you have to keep in mind though is, generally speaking, during early skirmishes you might suffer a lot unless you hit your third ability. Akali in the early game, it's all about hitting your third ability, because if you do, well, it's most of the time a deadly situation for the enemy because your third ability's damage is so absurdly high. For the jungle clear, we are not seeing this done so fast, but we spotted the Kha'Zix on the blue buff right now. And it's going to be a very funny interaction with a Samira Nautilus bot lane into a Sono Kai'Sa. So Sono Kai'Sa can't really do anything to these two champions. If they get touched once, they just explode. As for the full clear, like you see, it is most definitely not the fastest, but also not the slowest. We've seen a lot slower clears. So it's more or less in line with weaker champions, but it's definitely a possibility, as you've seen. Getting the first recall in to buy the boots for the map pressure, because movement speed obviously helps you get around the map faster, and these boots provide you with Magic Pen, which in combination with your second rune Sudden Impact will allow you to deal even more damage. Also, the first item choice is going to be Lich Bane, which will then be utilized by proccing your spells consistently and just making use of spacing. Hitting the third ability in an easy manner, going for the quick execute, getting some juicy gold from first strike, being rich as hell, 53 extra. Now it's time to push this wave in, and if the enemy Kha'Zix isn't here, the enemy Darius cannot, they just spot the Kha'Zix on the other side of the map, which means the Darius is not allowed to just walk back to lane. Okay, the Camille is recalling for an item, but it could be it could have been very dangerous for the Darius. As of right now, if the Darius walks around the corner, as of this moment, she probably has to pop ult to get away. But if that isn't a thing, everything is okay. But since the Kha'Zix was spotted on the other side of the map and the Akali has the time on every single camp, she can now just trap for the Kha'Zix and instantly send him back into the Shadow Realm, because now she'll hit an easy third ability, hits the first ability, waits for him to jump, gets all the resets, got all the jumps, uses all the spacing abilities magnificently well, and now has the massive advantage over the Kha'Zix by gaining so much gold, denying him the ability to farm because he has to go base, well, because he's dead, and come from base again. On the flip side, the Akali doesn't have access to ultimate anymore, which means that as of right now, she cannot really force a play, and her ultimate cooldown is quite high in the early stages of the game. So making proactive plays around objectives, which come up in less than a minute, could potentially, a little bit more than a minute, could be a little bit more problematic. But if they get a catch before the objective, right around when the ult comes up, everything will be okay. I'm quite curious to see how much better the jungle click gets once the Akali has Lich Bane. Revealing herself is potentially quite an issue, because the Kha'Zix now knows where she was, allowing him to potentially go for other plays. But in this instance, we just go home, back opponents towards our Lich Bane, we're reasonably close, And once we have this item completion, we deal a lot more damage. We also spot the Kazakhs on the other side of the map, and now it's starting to be a little bit more dangerous because the Nautilus isn't there to save the Samira, so the Samira just gets dove. An absolute tragedy because you never want this to happen. Samira and Nautilus is such a strong lane, you can just instantly all in all the time, so leaving the lane is basically a death sentence for the Samira, which doesn't really have wave clear. And now it's all about finding a teamfight situation, and Nautilus still has ultimate ability, and if, oh, Kazakhs, I don't know if you want this, and what just happened here, it's kind of awkward. Going in for a quick combo here, the enemy is completely low HP, forced out the fight, he just waits for a situation to capitalize on a second ult charge here, can't do so, uses it to gap close to the dragon, and he forces the fight. He wanted to fight. It's not about the dragon, he just wanted to get the fight, and wanted to get some kills to accelerate the game. At the same time, the Kazakhs might be very well trying to trade, which he is, for the Herald. Oh, and they get it, so the entire play was completely worked for the Kazakhs team. Even though the Darius dies, it could always be a lot worse, but they secure the Herald. With the Herald secured, the Kazakhs can now get so much gold while the Kaiser was busy split pushing. The Kaiser is getting so much gold for no reason, even though they're supposed to get absolutely dumpstered during the laning phase, and just taking away everything because they can beat over on cooldown. But so far, the Nautilus Samira lane is not working as intended, but the Akali is scaling up to be an absolute threat. Like, you know, Akali, at some point you reach a stage where you just hit your third ability, and now they're all in mid lane, where the most people can be around at all times, when they could have killed their bot lane, whenever Kazakhs is or was not around, instantly on a flash auto attack, on ultimate, on like literally anything, and now it's a chase down scenario. Do you see the damage getting briefly down so as to flash away? Darius is waiting in the wings now, coming from the left side, trying to flank, looking for the opportunity, misses the hook, the Akali goes in for an ult charge, hits the third ability as well. This will be an execute onto Darius, but the Sona stuns, the Sona saves him. And we're back at square one. We traded some spells, traded some ultimates here, and now it's just back to jungle farming. And this Akali will continue to scale. But with Akali, it's always easy to get 1 or 2 kills. But the biggest issue for Akali is 1v9ing or carrying a game. Because it's all about the delicate usage of your abilities without getting yourself killed. Because even if you just kill one and die afterwards, it's most of the time a bad trade since you're already fed. So you want to get more value, so you have to be very, very careful to not get locked down. The enemy team has potential lockdown with the Sona ultimate, that if you make a mistake, you get stunned and then revealed by the Kaiser W, but there's a fight unfolding. The Sona ult is zoning the entirety of the fight, and the Samira is not there yet. The Darius on the other side of the map is taking down turrets. Well, at least attempting to. But you see, it's like the ARAM situation. They have a Nautilus and a Samira. Please, for the love of God, go side lane and force a dive on anything you see. Stop AFKing in mid lane because everyone and the entire families will continue to come mid lane, and you will just look at each other, and then you'll throw out some cooldown, Sona will ult, then nothing will happen. But now the Sona might have overstepped, the Kaiser can't really follow, the Kassadin is now stuck to the tower there, and the Camille is just looking at the top tower. There's a Kazakhs down, there's 4 people down, if the Darius is on the top side, there's again an absolute just looking at each other festival, it's like cinema. And nothing is happening. Like, you really do not want this, and the Samira solo kills the Kaiser in mid lane. However, that was possible, and now the ultimate comes down to the Kazakhs. He just jumps in, goes for an instant stealth here, waits for the Kazakhs to reveal himself again. Now the Sona is left alone with the Akali in the backline, and she just has to commit because of the ignite on her, and she will die to the ignite, and the ultimate of the Sona, and she will give 800 gold to the Sona, which is not the worst thing that could have happened, but again, this game could have been so much easier if you just force plays inside lane with Nautilus and Samira and just get people killed by getting away from a good spot because they don't really have wave clear, and then you could verge onto them from flanks. Speaking about the build for a second, we have Rabadon as a very high AP item, typical for the build. It was changed quote-unquote recently, so it doesn't provide you as much AP as it did earlier, but it scales better now. So most of the time, depending on your champion, you'll see it second or third if you really need utility items. For the third item, we have Crowned Shattered Queen, providing you with some extra safety so you don't get instantly popped, and Riftmaker for even more damage. Akali's numbers are very high, so if you get hit by an ability, the damage pre-mitigation is like 1,500, and then 9% of these 1,500 is quite a lot of extra damage. Not to forget, you get some nice sustain, and for our last item we have the Infinity Orb to get ourselves some extra magic pen, and our ultimate, and all of our stuff will then be able to crit once they're low enough. For runes, for accelerated jungle clear, we have a powered attack and just a domination third page. Ooh, nice all in onto Kha'Zix. We just hit the third ability, meaning you will instantly die. And now it's just dancing in the shadows, dancing under their noses, and they can't really do anything about this. So coming back to the runes. Akali's third ability, second ability, and third ability and ultimate ability will all proc sudden impact, which means whatever you do, you will always have access to these 13 magic pen and armor pen. Now, if you add the Boots of Mana to this, you have 8 extra pen, which means you remove more than half of the carries magic resistance in mid to late game already, because they don't gain as much natural resistances on magic resist at least. With this, you will deal so much extra damage to people while not even screwing up or screwing over your build path. And it only gets worse with Akali, and there's a golden rule. It doesn't matter what you buy as an AD carry, if you get hit by an Akali Shuriken, you will die. The only realistic way to survive is either stasising the R2, or, it's just a freak, I don't have to say a word, or you avoid being hit by the Shuriken. Because if the Akali doesn't hit you with the Shuriken and she's under pressure because of time and people attacking her as she all-ins, she doesn't have enough damage if you have, for example, a Morn AD carry, and you also have access to items such as Shield Bow and a summoner spell like Exhaust. So you can make life for the Akali very difficult, unless, well, you get hit by a Shuriken, then you're just dead. The enemy team just doesn't have any fun. They can't really face check anything because they don't have the champions to do so. Darius is their only real frontliner, Kassan is their sideliner, and his team has a Nautilus and a Camille. And whenever you get caught and anything touches you with the power of Nautilus Samira, you just blow up instantly, and it's all about Samira being smart about the usage of her spells. And again, somebody walks up a little bit too far, gets instantly caught, it's simply not allowed. The entire topside jungle of the enemy team is dominated by the Akali's team. It's a 10-1 performance, an absolute showcase of stomping, and if you want to see more of these gameplays, check out the description below, and most importantly, let me know what you think about these. Playing on the European server is more than a hassle. Like, most of the games are just disturbingly flippy, there's not much to do, so I really enjoy watching these a lot more and just trying to tell you guys the potential thought process of the player as it's happening, plus some extra information. And if you want, I can tell you about my lovely water I'm drinking, so we have plenty of options. With Baron now secured, it's very, very important to make sure to use these side lanes, because mid lane, again, for what reason is the bot lane sitting in mid lane when the entirety of his team is either in base or prepping side waves? You want to make sure to play with waves to deny the enemy any possibility of a counterplay, because now the Darius is allowed to get a shutdown on the turret up there, while our AD carry died and our support now died as well. So this Baron actually loses us gold, where it's supposed to grant us gold. And only because bot laners had to be like, well, it's time to walk up mid lane, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get ourselves killed, and then just die. And again, we are looking at each other over and over again, when the game could be so much easier if we had people push side lane, and then we use the strength of our champions to collapse on these lanes when the minions are closer to turrets or force the enemy to spread themselves thin. Darius tries to go in with a protobelt hook and it's just not enough, and there's a jungle action happening. Camille locks somebody down, but Darius just dies instantly to the Akali even with exhaust, and she escapes. The Kaiser goes after him, gets the kill, gets 700 gold and survives thanks to the power of Sona. Uh-oh, this game could actually be a difficult one now, but the Zed trades back by getting the Kassadin. This game has become unnecessarily hard due to the bot lane shenanigans, and I can only hope that at some point they will utilize their side lane pressure, because Camille wins into Darius, the Kassadin can always escape, but the Zed can kill him if he doesn't pay too close of attention, and they will win every single all-in, and the Kha'Zix jumps in, tries to deny this dragon, even though it doesn't really matter. They just got the soul, but they will not lose the game because of the soul. They will lose the game because they probably will all die. And it's only an ocean soul. Like, it really does not matter that much. And now we've reached a point where the Sona is providing a lot of value to the team. We are 60 minutes in, and for some reason, we have not utilized the entire team's champion strength at all. We have secure lockdown with Camille, we have an insane lockdown on dive potential with Nautilus, and all we do is sit mid lane, or sit in one lane and look at each other and do nothing. And then the enemy gets to scale, they get a few shutdowns, there's a little bit of griefing here and there, and suddenly the game becomes very, very close, because right now the Akali has 50% of her team's kills, which makes the game very difficult to pilot, because the enemy team, as I said earlier, has the lockdown. And again, what is this, like, what a point of Sulpan and Nautilus, nothing will happen, the Nautilus will probably fall. Oh, he has to use everything he has at his disposal to not just die, and the Kassadin jumps the wall, deals 50 billion damage, Zonias is instantly the Camille ultimate, now he goes and it's a beautiful stun, but the Kha'Zix is just too fast, they're just too fast, and the Akali dies. You see, like, as I said earlier, it's easy to get kills with an Akali, but it's so difficult to carry, especially if your team is not creating proper space for you. Because so far, the Nautilus is just throwing in spells for fun. His ultimates do not really follow any sense, and even though when he walks in for his teammates, he does so too early so his teammates cannot be in a position where they can do something. And this game gets closer and closer and closer for, again, no reason. So for the future, if you're in a similar situation, try to coordinate your team and try to tell them to push sideways so these scenarios can be avoided. Ooh, this will be a very, very difficult play. Now he's teleporting in, buying the teleport. The Camilla's in the pit. It's a fight happening. One kill. The Baron is secured by the enemy team. They're all dying. What a beautiful chase down. Another kill right into the hands of the Akali. And the enemy team will lose this game off this play because the base is being taken down. The Nexus shield is no longer available. And now the clip cuts and we'll end the game. Sadly, we don't see the damage done. But as you've seen, it is possible. And it's just something that all comes down to macro. It really showcases you that there's so much more people can do, even at the highest elo on the Chinese server. And I really hope that showcasing this to you could potentially help you avoid these same mistakes, or when you see these situations, know what you could potentially do. And with that, we're at the end of this video. Thank you all for watching. Leave a like in the comment section below, and let me know what you want me to watch next. Maybe there's something you have seen, or maybe another channel I haven't tackled yet, and I'll be gladly or happy reaching out to them and talk to them if I can react to their content. And yeah, see you soon for more RiftGuides content.